originally advertised, but thank you for your patience. Okay, so my name is Councillor Elizabeth Baptiste, and before I ask everyone to introduce themselves, just want to say that obviously this meeting is it's for the variation of the current application. So without further ado, I would like to call on officers and obviously the applicants as well, and any relevant authorities and other parties, if we've got any, to introduce themselves. So as I said, I'm Councillor Elizabeth Baptiste. I'd like to pass on to Sally.
Thank you, Councillor Baptiste. My name is Sally Littlejohn and I'm a councillor in Canhole Ward. Thank you. Pass on to Kay.
Thank you, everyone, and my apologies again. I'm so sorry. It was on my side that I messed up. So I'm Councillor Kay Isaf of Chingford Green Ward.
I didn't say which ward I represent. I represent Chingford Mount. So just in case people are wondering which ward is Chingford Mount. Right, Christopher, maybe you just want to introduce yourself again.
Thank you. My name is Chris Foxton. I'm one of the Democratic Services officers.
Thank you. Jenny?
Hi all, Jenny Richards. I'm one of the Democratic Services officers as well.
Darren?
Hello, I'm Darren Riley. I'm the licensing manager. I'm not partaking in the meeting, just observing unless I'm needed.
Okay. Brendan?
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon. My name is Brendan Brett. I'm a barrister at Francis Taylor Building, and I am acting as the legal officer for today's hearing.
Frank?
Yes, good afternoon, Chair. My name is Frank Fender. I'm representing the applicant, Caribbean Eatery UK Limited, at this afternoon's hearing, Chair.
Thank you. And Sophie?
Yeah, I'm Sophia Forrester, and I'm, I suppose, a representative of Caribbean Eatery.
Very much. So the next step of this procedure is to ask our committee lawyer, please, to outline the procedures. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. You should all have a copy of the procedure at page 7 of the agenda pack, but quickly to run through. As there don't seem to be any public speakers, the Chair will invite the applicants to make their relevant representations, after which the subcommittee and other persons with the subcommittee's permission may ask the applicant questions. After the applicant has been questioned, other parties, if they're present, may make their representations and be questioned by the subcommittee and the other parties in turn. At the end of that process, the other parties will be asked to sum up their case by the Chair, followed last of all by the applicant. At the end of that process, the subcommittee will retire to consider their decision, and at the end of which that will be announced to those present.
I would now like to call Council's licensing officer, please, to present the report.
Thank you, Chair. An application for the variation of an existing premises license has been received from Caribbean Eatery UK Limited in respect of Caribbean Eatery Unit 61A, Uplands Business Park, Blackhorse Lane, London, E17 5QJ. The premises currently benefits from a premises license authorising the following: late night refreshment, Friday and Saturday, 11 PM till 1:30 AM. Sale of alcohol, on and off sales, live and recorded music, Sunday to Thursday, 10 AM till 10:30 PM. Friday and Saturday, 10 AM to 1:30 AM. With opening hours, Sunday to Thursday, 8 AM to 11 PM. Friday and Saturday, 8 AM to 2 AM. With non-standard timings for Christmas, which are on Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve, recorded music, live music, late night refreshment, and the sale of alcohol to be permitted until 1:30 AM on the following day, where those days fall other than on a Friday or Saturday. The applicant proposes to vary the licensable activities as follows: sale of alcohol, on and off sales, live and recorded music, to extend the terminal hours on Friday and Saturday until 2:30 AM and Sunday until 12:30 AM. Monday to Thursday operating hours are to remain unchanged. Late night refreshment, extended terminal hours Friday and Saturday until 3 a.m. Add late night refreshment on Sunday from 11 p.m. to 1 a.m. Monday to Thursday operating hours to remain unchanged. Opening hours, extend closing time Friday and Saturday till 3 a.m. Sunday to 1 a.m. Monday to Thursday operating hours to remain unchanged. A full copy of the application can be found at Appendix A to the report. During the consultation period, the licensing service received 2 representations from other persons that were considered relevant relating to the licensing objectives on the grounds of preventing public nuisance and the prevention of crime and disorder. During the consultation, the applicant negotiated with both the police and the licensing team on separate matters, and conditions were agreed with both responsible authorities to include the conditions onto the premises license. There are no representations submitted by any of the responsible authorities to be considered. After giving due consideration to the representations made and taking into account the views of the applicant, and after giving due regard to the amended guidance issued under Section 182 of the Licensing Act and the Council's own statement of licensing policy, the committee is respectfully asked to determine whether the application for a premises license should be granted in full, granted in part, or refused. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. So just for the record, I note that we don't have any public speakers. That's correct, yeah, Chris?
Hi, Chair, that is correct. In this situation, that when we get to the part for the other parties' representations, we just have to take as read the objections that they've submitted.
Thank you very much. So in that case, then I'm going to go straight then to the applicants, please. If you can just please present your case. So that is what? Is it Frank or Sophie? Thank you.
Frank will present the application on behalf of Sophie, Chair. Thank you. Thank you, and good afternoon, everybody. I'm grateful to your officer pointing out the application today. The application relates to a variation of an existing premises licence for the Caribbean Eatery, which is located at Uplands Business Park on Black Horse Lane. Present with me is Sophia Forrester. Sophia is a director of the applicant, the limited company. She is also the designated premises supervisor at these premises. So she has a very much hands-on experience with running and operating these premises. As you've heard, the premises does benefit from an existing premises licence, and that premises licence has been in force now for nearly 18 months. The permitted activities and the permitted times are as per page 14 of your report, and as already outlined by your licensing officer, and the variation sought has also been outlined by your officer on pages 14 and 15. With respect to the licensing officer, there's just one small point that he omitted to sort of include in the report. And there is also an application to amend the non-standard timings for the licensable activities which are permitted, to amend the non-standard timings to 2:30 a.m. on Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve. The existing license shows 1:30 a.m. We're asking for that to be amended to 2:30 a.m. Christmas Eve, New Year's Eve, where those days fall other than on a Friday and a Saturday. The reason for the application, Chair, first of all, demand. These premises are becoming more used, and the licence holder is being asked by various groups to hold various functions at these premises, often for later hours than the existing licence permits. The application would also, if you are granting the application today, it would also allow the operator more flexibility over the way the premises are managed. And of course, if you are minded to grant it today, then the applicant would feel more reassured in as much that it would sustain the viability of the business financially. I think at this point, Chair, it is worth pointing out that these premises have been used under temporary event notices since the premises licence was granted. In fact, since June this year, there's been a total of 5 temporary event notices issued in respect of these premises. The 26th of June, where licensable activity, the sale of alcohol and music entertainment was permitted until 3 a.m. The 2nd of July until 3 a.m. The 18th of September until 3 a.m. The 2nd of October until 3 a.m. and on the 30th of October until 2:30 a.m. So 4 out of 5 of those temporary event notices allowed activities to take place to times which are even beyond those which are sought as part of this variation application. And I'm pleased to be able to say that those events all took place, no complaints, no issues for any of the authority, no complaints in respect of noise nuisance, crime disorder, or any other undermining of the licensing objectives. Evidence indeed that the premises are able to operate with the activities and the times for those activities as per the application before you this afternoon without complaint. In respect of the 2 representations, I'll talk about those in a minute, but I just want to clarify the discussions which took place with the police and with the licensing authority during the consultation process. The police were happy with the application. Their concern was in respect of traffic management on the business park as a whole and what the applicant today could do to address some of that concern. And as a result of that discussion, a further condition was agreed which relates to patrols regarding parked vehicles. Basically, staff from the premises ensuring that their customers park appropriately without causing the obstructions which were expressed by the police during those discussions. The licensing authority discussion resulted in another condition being agreed, a condition which effectively restricts the number of smokers outside the premises after 2300 hours on any given day. It's been agreed that there would be no more than 8 smokers after 2300 hours. If I can turn to the 2 representations from the 2 residents of Clarence Road. Residents of Clarence Road. No representations, Chair, from any of the other residential properties which are actually closer to the Caribbean Eatery than Clarence Road. Clarence Road, as the crow flies, is 164 metres away from Caribbean Eatery. That is according to Google Earth. We have no representations from any properties in Lancaster Road, in Goldsmith Road, nor in Shakespeare Road. All 3 of those roads are in closer proximity to Clarence Road. In addition, there are also several buildings between Caribbean Eatery and Clarence Road, all of which will provide a degree of noise proofing, noise barriers. Having said that, any entertainment which takes place at the Caribbean Eatery takes place indoors, and full compliance with existing premises licence conditions takes place, conditions which mitigate the potential of entertainment creating a nuisance. Those conditions have been complied with since the licence was issued in June last year, and there's been no noise complaints attributed to these premises since that date. You will note from the representation from Sam Rowland, which is within your pack, that person initially mentioned noise from the Caribbean Eatery, but it then became clear during that person's discussion with the licensing authority that the noise that was being referred to in the representation was actually coming from another premises, not linked to the Caribbean Eatery. That is actually referenced in the email on page 62 of your report from your licensing officer, Mr. Xavier, between Mr. Xavier and Sam Rowland. And you will also see on page 53 of your report a further email from Sam Rowland apologising for wrongly accusing the eatery of being the cause of that noise nuisance. The representation from Sajid Khan, who also lives in Clarence Road, offers no evidence about noise from the Caribbean Eatery. It is, in my respective opinion, more a representation stated that noise could become a problem if the later hours were granted. Sajid Khan references other business in the area, stating that if this application is granted, then these premises would have more than other businesses in the area. But any references to what other businesses in the area either have or do not have in respect of operating hours are irrelevant. As you know, every application is treated on its own individual merits, and the applicant has been able to demonstrate that these premises can be operated until the hours applied for without creating a nuisance. I would therefore ask, bearing in mind that there are just 2 representations from residents who are quite a distance from these premises, but no representations from people that are closer, I would ask that you apply the appropriate amount of weight to those representations. It has been demonstrated that these premises can operate without complaint to the hours that are being applied for, and I would therefore ask you to grant today's application as applied for, with the addition of the 2 conditions agreed with the police and with the licensing authority. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Frank, for thank you. Case, sorry. Before I open it out to the subcommittee, I do have a couple of questions myself before I bring my colleagues in. I think one of them you've already touched on, and it's to do with, I was going to ask the question, why? Obviously, you've already confirmed when the license was granted, and to now, why at the time did you not submit a license for those times? Okay, so you've kind of like touched on that already. But obviously, I still would like you just to say a bit more. But before you answer that, the temporary events that you're talking about, is that events that the Caribbean Eatery had held for those dates? The 26th of June, 2nd of July, October. Is that your events or is that a separate party? Just want to get clarification.
Yes, Chair. All events that take place at the Caribbean Eatery are very much family orientated events. Birthday parties, wedding anniversary celebrations, etc. There has never been any events that have been run by what we would consider to be outside promoters. In fact, the existing licence conditions prevent that from happening. That was never the intention of operating these premises for outside promoters. It was always a family-run business. Lots of customers, of course, lots of clients which have built up over time. Hence the application for longer hours now, because when people want these parties, they appreciate that the premises can operate until 1:30 on a Friday and Saturday, but they often ask for longer. I should also point out that when the initial application was submitted back in May 2021, we pre-engaged with the police at that time before submitting the application to see what times that they would be happy with. And it was almost like, look, if we apply for these times and get the license for these times, let's see how you run. And it could be possible for you to come back at a later stage with an application to increase those hours. But it gives the police an opportunity to see how the venue is operated and any potential concerns, which we're pleased to say has been none.
Okay, so the reasons that you've given for the extension, you say, is to hold various functions, for more flexibility, and to sustain the viability of the business. My question is, if for whatever reason it's not granted, what impact would it have on the business?
I'll ask Sophia to answer that for you, Chair.
Okay.
Yeah, it'll have a financial impact. They'll go elsewhere, I suppose. That's what would happen. And currently, we've had a tough couple of years with COVID, now with the living crisis. People still want to celebrate their 50th birthdays, their 60th birthdays. And I would say now, when I was growing up, a 60-year-old seemed quite old, but now 50-year-olds and 60-year-olds, even 70-year-olds, they're young. and they want to enjoy their night, and the demand comes from them to extend that time, and they're really safe environments, and they're just enjoying themselves, and that's the reason why we want to extend that, to give our business a chance. We've seen the benefit of having this premises license in place, but we just want to maintain and improve on that going forward, and this would just give us that extra reassurance in this time, in these troubled times, if that answers your question.
Thank you, that's fine. And just one more before I bring my colleagues in. In terms of parking, what's the parking situation like near the venue, or, you know, what is it like? How many, is there parking spaces? Just tell me a bit about that.
So we have access to a unit that's probably about 10 meters from our building, and customers are parking in that car parking area, which is away from the building, so there's no obstruction. And we also have traffic marshals that will direct customers accordingly, so there isn't any obstructions, because that obviously was a condition from the police as well anyway. So that's what we adhere to, and that's what the customers are aware of. And we also, when we do get bookings, we make it, we do prefer clients to take alternative methods of transportation, but in regards to the actual main client, they are aware that there is further parking spaces, so we always make provisions for that.
I'd now like to open this out. Questions, please, to the subcommittee. Sally, Kay, over to you.
Thank you, Chair. Am I going first? Thank
Go
you. Yeah, thank you, Frank, for the representation. It's certainly answered a few of my questions that I was going to ask, so I'm happy with that. Just wanted to, how many staff do you employ when you are going to be open those new hours? How many staff would you have working on the night?
So door staff would be around, well, it depends on the numbers of people that are attending, but it's up to sort of like up between 4 to 6 door staff, and then there's like 4 Caribbean Eatery staff, because we'll have there is food, and there's also the bar. When the food is finished, then those 4 will either be split to the traffic marshals as well, and we'll have 2 on the bar as well. So there's normally, you know, between up to 10 or more, but we'll obviously gauge that based on the amount of guests that are attending at the event. So we would upscale if required.
Right, thank you. And how many? What's the capacity of your guests? How many in one night would you say your bookings will be? I just want to get the number of guests coming.
It's around 100.
100.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. And if there was any complaints or anyone who wishes to report, will they be able to have your phone number that they can contact you to say if there's any anything they're not happy with? Can they be in contact with you? Would your mobile number be available if anyone wants to speak to you as the director? Sorry. Yeah. Sorry.
Yes, it can be available, no problem.
That's fine. Thank you very much. That's all my questions. Thank you.
I think if I may just add to that answer, Councillor, there are quite robust conditions on the existing premises licence, all of which would be retained on the licence should you be minded to grant this application. And noise assessment, noise patrols also feature as part of the ongoing operation of the premises, as well as traffic management. So the operators really do take their responsibilities seriously.
Yep, thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks. I was going to ask some of the same things that Kay has asked, but and Councillor Baptiste. But what I'd like to do is to get a picture of. You say it's Caribbean Eatery. So it's mainly a restaurant, is that right? But there is music as well. Because my feeling is that often complaints come from noise disturbance from neighbours or residents living nearby. And if there's music, loud music, is it contained within the building? That's what I'd like to know.
Yes, it's contained within the building, and based on the references that have been spoken, we've had our license for 18 months now, and we haven't had any complaints at all. So I feel that that's enough evidence that we are aware of our surroundings. We do noise controls, and even on testing the decibels and things like that. We walk up the road because we're actually on an industrial estate, so we actually walk to the top of the industrial estate to make sure that the sound isn't traveling that far, and it isn't. So we are mindful of our neighbours, and considering that we have had our license for 18 months, we haven't had any complaints. I feel that that's enough evidence that we are in control of the music that is being played, noise-wise and things like that.
Thank you.
I think I'd like to add something to that as well, if I can, Councillor, because during my discussions with Mr. Xavier, it's quite clear that Mr. Xavier and another officer, council officer, were investigating complaints of noise from the estate. And I think if you read through the email from Mr. Xavier, you can see that the way that thread was, and they were happy that the noise, or the music noise that they witnessed when they investigated, was actually from a different premises. That premise does have an outside space, it does have outside music, and I know that it's been of concern to the applicant today that they wouldn't be labelled or be accused of creating that music disturbance when in fact it was somebody else. That does appear to be confirmed by Mr. Xavier, and of course when that was pointed out to Mr. or Ms. Rowland in their representation, that was the reason why they apologised for the assuming the assumption that it was Caribbean Eatery, whereas it wasn't.
Okay, thank you for that. I have just one other question, which is to do with all the other premises. And I think one of the residents mentioned this. All the other premises on that estate, their licenses allow them to open up to, I think it's 2 a.m. or, sorry, the same times that Caribbean Eatery has at the moment. And I think, Mr. Fender, you have said that we have to consider this license on its own merits, this application. I mean, I am a bit concerned that some of the other premises are going to start wanting to vary their licenses now. But can I just have confirmation that we really do not have to consider that?
Yes, Councillor. Well, obviously you will take advice from your legal advisor with you today. What I would say is every case is all merits, and you don't set a precedent under licensing. Should somebody come in with an application for an increased hours, then that in itself had to be dealt with on its individual merits as well. But I don't see anything in the papers nor in the representation from the resident to say that other businesses have licenses until 2 o'clock. I think the phrase used in that representation from Mr. Khan was these opening stroke music hours are completely different to what any other business in the area is allowed. It doesn't stipulate, so I'm not
it doesn't specify. No, I think he is. No. I think he is saying their hours are earlier, or they're closing earlier than this application would allow Caribbean Eatery to stay open. Okay, we can discuss that with our legal advisor. Thank you. I have no more questions.
Okay, thank you so much. I see Brandon's got his hand up. Hi, Brandon.
Hello. I can provide some advice about that point from Mr. Fender when we're discussing it after the representations. There was one point which, if with your permission, Chair, I might ask Mr. Fender to comment upon, because it's a technical matter rather than a controversial one, I hope. Mr. Fender, you'll note in the agenda pack the copy of the license conditions at page 47.
I don't have the agenda pack.
Fine.
I do have a copy of the license.
Fine, that's good. In the Annex 2, condition 12.
Yes.
That's a condition which limits essentially new customers entering the premises between the hours of 11 p.m. and 1:30 p.m. Given that you're seeking to vary the operating hours of the premises, is it your view that this condition requires any variation in the course of this application as well, or not? And if so, why not?
No, if I could hold it up to the screen, you'll see I've got an asterisk by that condition on the license. It would make sense to amend it in one of two ways, in my opinion. Either that there's no new customers after 2300 hours full stop, or no new customers between 2300 and 0230, say for persons who have temporarily left. Now it was an oversight for the presentation rather than it would make a mockery really if it was left there, because it would basically mean no one new can come in after 11 o'clock until just after 1:30, which is not the intention of the operator.
Great, thank you. That's helpful. We'll take that to the members to think about when they deliberating. Thank you very much. That was the only question I had, Chair.
Okay, thank you. And just a final question from me. Where Caribbean Eateries is situated, is there any other businesses similar to yours in that estate as well?
There's breweries.
Okay, yeah, there's
a lot of microbreweries now. So the industrial estate has changed. Right. It used to be very industrial with factories, etc. But now, in the past couple of years, there's a lot of it's following a trend where there's a lot of microbreweries setting up.
So, any other questions from Sally and Kay? No?
None from me, Chair. Thank you.
None from me, Chair. Thanks.
Thank you. Looking at the agenda, questions from the responsible authorities, but we don't have that. I think, Brendan, you've already answered your bit, yeah? So that's fine, yeah? Questions from any other parties? We don't have any other parties, yeah? That's right, Chris? Yeah?
Yep, none of the other parties are present.
I didn't hear you, sorry.
Sorry, none of the other parties are present.
So, according to the agenda, I'm supposed to be inviting the responsible authorities, followed by the other parties. So since we don't have that, we can then move on for the applicant, please, if you can just perhaps sum up your case. We're now coming to the end. If you'd just like to sum up your case, thank you.
Certainly, Chair. I will be brief. I won't repeat everything I said, although there could easily be a temptation. Chair, I would ask you to give considerable weight to the fact that these premises have operated for 18 months without causing any issues. I would ask you to give considerable weight to the evidence that these premises have operated till 3 a.m. on 4 occasions and 2:30 a.m. on 1 occasion under temporary event notices, again, without causing any issues. We respect the fact that local people can make representations, but we do feel that you shouldn't attach too much weight to those representations insofar as they are from people who are quite distant from these premises, very, or should I say extremely unlikely to be affected by anything going on at these premises, especially when you consider that no other residents who live nearer have objected. Discussions between the police and the licensing authority have been very healthy. You may be aware that the police do have actually a post on that same industrial estate and are very familiar with these premises as they are with the other premises, and they have a lot of confidence in the way that these premises are run. I know that, and I think that's evidenced by the fact that there is no representation from the police. Everything was discussed with them. And so I would therefore, as said earlier, ask you to grant as applied for, with subject to those two conditions being added, and I suspect an amendment to condition 12 on Annex 2 of the existing licence as discussed with your legal advisor. And just one other point away from summing up, if I may, I understand that the decision from today will be sent out within a set time period. I just wonder, given the fact that it's 2 weeks before Christmas, whether the decision could be, or we could be advised of the condition verbally, because as you know, any decision would have immediate effect, and it would enable the operator to sort of plan a couple more things for Christmas. Whereas if we have to wait the 5 working days, then that takes right up to almost to Christmas Eve, when it would be too late to organise anything. That's a plea, Chair. That's a plea. If you are minded, I believe you are allowed to. I suspect you may take legal advice on that one as well, but it would be appreciated if that could happen as well, please.
Okay, thank you very much, Frank and Sophie, for putting forward your case. We will obviously now retire to make that decision, and I take on board your request, and Chris will definitely come back to you with regards to the outcome of our decision. Okay. So
that's very kind.
Thank you,
Chair. Thank you, councillors.
Thank you
very much. Thank you.